Do you know how much energy it takes to raise a human to be 20 years old? Go see if you can replace yourself. Like everything you do at work, see if you can replace it with AI. If we stop here in the US, China's not going to stop, and Iran's not going to stop, and Egypt's not going to stop, and Israel's not going to stop, and whoever is not going to stop, Russia's not going to stop. It's an arms race. It's absolutely nuclear arms race all over again, right? This time it's AI. So we have to keep pushing it forward. It's going to happen.
Welcome to the Meetup tonight for the Mormon Transhumanist Association. For just a brief introduction, Mormon transhumanism. As a group, we like to think about the intersection between transhumanism and Mormonism. We're interested in technology and the responsibilities that gives us, and all around interested in the future. Obviously, with AI, things are going pretty crazy, and so we're excited to hear from Jon Cheney tonight. I'll go ahead and read his bio, and then we'll just send it off to him. Jon Cheney is the founder and CEO of General AI Proficiency Institute, an organization he launched in early 2025 to protect human agency, adaptability, and ownership in the age of AI. A software executive and lifelong technologist, Jon has spent more than 2 decades building technology companies and leading teams through digital transformation. Through Gen AI PI, he works with organizations across industries as fractional chief AI officer, installing internal AI capability rather than dependence, training leaders and teams to choose creation over consumption. He's widely recognized as a leading voice on AI leadership and human agency, and writes and speaks frequently on the conviction that the general risk of the AI era is not job loss, but the loss of what makes us human. And we have Jon.
All right, guys. First of all, I never use slides because I hate slides. But, it's nice to be able to look at something. Just FYI, I made these slides as soon as I sat down here. And they used to add to it. And they're better than 99.9% of the slides that we can put out. So I'm not saying that because I'm cool or anything. I'm just saying AI is changing the game, right? Like, couldn't do that. I couldn't do that, a couple of years ago, and now we can just build unbelievable things in minutes, right? I mean, look at this. It's got like animations. It looks way better on my screen when it's kind of laggy on it, whatever. But it's got like this little hey, there's 11 slides here, whatever. Anyway, and it's just kind of cool. So first of all, how long are we?
Yeah. So you can speak
what's your format normally?
Yeah, we usually talk for around 20 minutes or so, or usually give it, for around 20 to 25 minutes. And then we just kind of open it up to QA. And then sometimes we like dive down to particular topics, or we just kind of like, whatever we're feeling. So
I love it. That's exactly what I want. I don't love, just talking, You guys can go watch YouTube videos of me talking. I'd rather talk with you and learn from you guys as well. So, well, cool. You already gave my bio, so I don't need to talk about that at all. I started Gen AI PI, and I've been consulting and working on, AI for more years than just before I started the Gen AI PI or the General AI Proficiency Institute. I really am just technology. I like technology. Like when the Apple Vision Pro came out, I bought it, and I always have the newest iPhone. When the Tesla came out, I bought it, right? Like I love new stuff. I love cool new things. But I also love it because I love to figure out how it's going to change the world. I like thinking about that. Like really, that's what I'm going for. So I founded a company back in 2016 called Seek, and Seek was an augmented reality app originally. And anybody else remember in 2016 a big app that came out?
What?
A big app that came out
in 2016.
In 2016, yes.
Siri.
Also in the augmented reality space. I don't know if Siri did. Maybe.
Pokemon Go.
Yeah, Pokemon Go.
I was on my mission.
Pokemon Go.
I missed it.
Yeah, so that's a decade ago now, I guess. Wow, that's crazy. Almost exactly a decade ago.
They 3D scanned the planet.
They did. No, they did some crazy stuff with it. And I saw that. And I was actually at the time running a company here in Utah called Treasure Canyon, where we were like putting treasure up in the mountains and holding events and like $10,000 events, all kinds of stuff. And anyway, we were one of the first companies that did that. Or I don't know, I think maybe I was the first one to do that. At least I hadn't seen it. Now there's a bunch more. There's one on Shark Tank and stuff like that. Anyway, but I was doing that. And anyway, when we kind of like morphed out of the, augmented reality app space and then started doing, kind of B2B SaaS with 3D and augmented reality, which helped you shop for like chairs or shoes or couches, whatever, with augmented reality on your phone, right? We were some of the first people to do that. We came out with it on the browser so that you didn't even have to download an app. And so we pushed a lot of that technology. I ended up selling that company in 2023. But before we did that, we were in the metaverse and we were in NFTs and tokens and things like that. All these new technologies. I just always loved them. But I always thought that the Bored Apes were ridiculously stupid. I thought all that stuff was just like, Earth, there's no value here. Like, yeah, it's a community and whatever. I got the arguments, but the reality was, I looked at NFTs and blockchain, and I said, man, what if we have our car titles and our house deeds and our, what if we have our medical records on NFTs and we could like give permission to a doctor and then revoke access and all these things. Let the pizza man in. So, welcome. So anyway, I've always just looked at technology and said, okay, how can this actually change the world for good? That's what I've really tried to do. And AI is 10 times, 100 times bigger than any of those technologies I just mentioned. And this company around, I'm not focusing on delivering, like building some product in it. My goal really with this one is I'm educating the world on it, and I'm trying to just stay on top of it. And it's really fun because with AI, like every 10 or 12 minutes, something new comes out. And so I get just constantly, I'm on X all day and on LinkedIn and Instagram and just all the places and going to conferences, things like that, learning what's going on and then bringing it to our customers. We work with companies and help them implement AI. That's really our the way that we make a lot of money. But it's my focus is trying to figure out, okay, how do we deal with it, right? And some of the big voices out there, the Sam Altmans and the Elon Musks and people like that, they do some good things and they also say some really dumb things, I think. One thing Elon Musk says that led me to writing this, the Gen AI doctrine, is he said this phrase, a post-work world. I'm like, that's not going to work. There's a lot of reasons why that's not great. He talks about universal basic, and actually talks about universal high income all the time, where people are just going to have everything they need and everyone's going to have money. And okay, well, does anybody remember what happened when everyone got money for not working during COVID? Inflation just went straight up, right? It would go waves, there should be absolute waivers. And so at the same time, AI can absolutely do all of our jobs, right? And then add it to robotics, it absolutely can do all of those, take all of those jobs, right? So saw something that said potentially in about 10 years, 60 to 70%, if not even higher than that, of the GDP in the United States will come from AI, from agents, specifically doing work and providing and creating value. So if 60, 70, 80% of the value of the GDP and tax revenue going to the government is coming from agents, well, where does the priority of all of the services of the government go to? It's not the people that are, doing whatever they want to do, playing video games on their universal high income, maybe. Which again, I don't even think the government can pull that off, but they're going to prioritize the needs of the agents, the needs of the data centers, the needs of these AI companies. And so we have to be really careful. I'm pro AI big time. I really am, with the understanding that we got to get this right. And if we don't, bad things could happen. I personally think some bad things are going to happen. So let's talk about that. But so my goal really is to help as many people as possible understand this, think about it, consider it for themselves, for their family, for their communities, for their businesses. That's really what it's about. So human agency is the thing I'm most worried about, right? That's God's gift to us. His primary gift to us is our agency. We can choose. He gives us commandments. He gives us, ideas and guides and, prophets and scriptures and whatever it is. He gives us all of these things. He helps us. I wake up every day lately and I just feel this gratitude for like, heart is still beating. My brain works. Like it says, I learn more about just everything. It's just fascinating to me how complex our universe is. And how just all the way down to us, how amazing it is. So we're going through this crazy technological transformation, artificial intelligence, robotics, quantum computing is barely. How many of you guys have like spent some time digging into quantum computing? Yeah, like this group, I would imagine a few more than normal. Quantum computing can do things at a rate to not get too deep into it, but basically, let's say a problem has, I don't know, a million potential, variations of what could happen with something, and we're, a billion, whatever, right? Like a maze, right? You could have the very, very complex maze where a normal, you know, programmatic line by line, try by try, it's going to try, run into a problem, and then back up, and then go like this, and go another way, and go like that. Quantum computing can take a million pathways all at the same time. And therefore, it's able to compute things at a rate that's, somewhere between a million to a trillion times faster, depending on the type of problem. It's ridiculous. And so you combine that with AI, put that kind of a brain inside of a robot, and you've got unbelievably exponential tech that we can't really understand, I don't think. So the biggest risk of AI is way beyond job loss. Okay, job loss is going to happen. It's going to shift. Jobs are going to shift, really. Okay, we've been through many, many technological advancements. And when the calculator came out, people were picketing in the streets. Teachers were picketing, saying, "Don't let calculators in the schools." Okay, because they thought it was going to rot our brain away. We weren't going to be able to think anymore. Well, we worked through it. We still think. And we just moved to higher level things. Now the calculators and then the computers and now the AI can just do more and more and more. And that allows us to kind of, I don't know, move up the food chain. Although it does, this is the first time where the technology, let's say it in the words of Ian Malcolm, when the rides break down, the dinosaurs, or what is it? It's a Small World, or Pirates of the Caribbean, don't try to eat you, right? Like the AI can actually do stuff now, can do it on its own, right? Even if someone is to kick off the process, at some point it actually can figure it out. Okay. So the big problem with a post-work world is I personally believe that we are meant to work. I think that work is an eternal principle, and that we learn from it, we grow from it, we fail at it, and all those things are super, super important. So when people are insulated from effort and consequence, meaning collapses, responsibility erodes, motivation disappears, social systems fracture, and power concentrates. If we do go to a place where we are given universal basic or universal high income, well, what if the government doesn't like what we're eating, or where we want to go to church, or what we want to talk about, or what we want to watch on our TV? They're providing all of those resources. They're giving us electricity and internet, healthcare, and food and everything. They can say, we're just going to add this thing. We're going to add this vaccine into this food. Right? We're providing it for you, so we get to decide. We've got our scientists. They say it's what's best. So here you go. We're going to do that. If you're depending on somebody, they control you. That's a huge element and principle here. Okay? So it's not an advanced world, it's a dead one, because we're being controlled. Now, this is something that I've talked about for a very long time. I'm a pianist. I played a little riff, whatever. I've played for almost 40 years. I compose. I have a lot of albums. It's something I care about a lot. And so people think that I might be really against AI and creating music and things like that, whatever. Actually, I love using AI to create music. I think it's amazing. I can do so much more. But creation it's what we do. It's what we are. It's I say it's humanity's superpower. We create music and art, and we create memories. We create gardens. We create recipes and food. We even create other humans, right? We create families and communities and all these things, right? It is our ultimate creation. I believe that we are creators patterned after the ultimate, the creator with a capital C. And the creation is a lot more. What if right now, how many of you guys created a song with AI? Okay. 3 people in here. So let's just ask you. Has anyone else heard that song?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a song about a D&D campaign, our little squad.
Super cool.
Yeah. And so all of them listened to it.
They all listened to it. Okay. Yeah. What about beyond that? Did you publish it to Spotify or
no,
put it on YouTube, or?
I didn't publish it anywhere beyond that. No.
Okay. Perfect. Awesome. Let's just take that as an example. So creation is cool, but the real value comes actually in the next part, right? I'm not saying you get value. You got value in there, but then it's that stewardship and helping it grow and become something big and become a number one. Any of you guys seen the new Michael movie? I saw it yesterday, and so it's on my mind. That guy was crazy. He was so talented, and he cared about he took care of his creations. right? He made these amazing things. He just had this natural born talent from a child, but then he pushed, and he had a lot going against him. But he figured it out. He figured it out and became the number one, became the GOAT. But yeah, creation is absolutely necessary. Without it, we kind of lose meaning. We really do. Again, I mentioned I am pro AI, right? My company, I started this because we are here to help people figure it out, navigate it. I think the reality is that most people, and I'm going to say at least 90%, if not 95%, based on all the studies I'm doing, and just when I walk into a room with 1,000 people, or I comment sections, whatever. I talk to a lot of people about it. I've gotten in front of somewhere around probably 2 million people in the last 12 months talking about AI, and 95% of people have absolutely no idea what AI can do. They have used ChatGPT as a Google search replacement, right? A lot of them haven't even touched that, right? And I'm talking, company owners that own $30 million companies, right? Like they're not even looking at it. It's just like out there, and they just have no idea what's coming. There's this massive tsunami, and they're just kind of buried their head in the sand, or they're just maybe they're not actively trying to avoid it. They just, hey, I'm making my money and I'm doing fine, right? But man, right now there are 21-year-olds in their basement, coming up with plans to take down those companies, and they're going to win because they're going to be AI native. They can do things 1,000 times faster. Quick story: when I founded Gen AI PI, I built a software system around it, and the idea was to basically have this AIQ test, like an AI IQ. I called it the AIQ, and it was just a simple test. You can go on the website still and take it today. And it was really supposed to be just kind of a pre-test. It's only 10 questions long and pulled out of a bank of like 200 questions or whatever. But you take it, and if you do well, then it takes you on the website to pay for a longer 40-question test. It's a little bit harder. That gets you your General AI Proficiency Institute certification. You can put on your LinkedIn. You could put on this, whatever. And then if you did poorly, then it would route you a different way to, hey, here's some courses on AI. Learn AI. Then come back, take a course, whatever. But that was the original idea. And I came up with that idea on a Thursday morning, or actually kind of on a Thursday morning. I was a Thursday morning. I posted on LinkedIn and said, hey, you know what? I've gotten pretty good at vibe coding. I'm going to see if I can launch a business today and get my first customer tomorrow. And I ended up taking me 3 days to build it. And I did this all kind of live blogging on LinkedIn, whatever. This was last March or February, I guess. I published it March 1. And 5 days later, I had a $15,000 contract with the company. 6 weeks later, I had 200 grand. 6 months later, I had $1 million business. It just took off, right? And now today, I have 25 employees that I started this thing, literally March of last year. And I did some analysis on it. And during that first 3 days, the amount of the lines of code that I had, and the structure and the completion of the business, and I built everything. I opened a bank account, I started the LLC, I started a Facebook page, Instagram page, X page, and LinkedIn page, and put content in all of it, made it all with AI, did everything, right? And just structured it all, privacy policies, and built all the content, built all the courses, built everything in 3 days. It was crazy. And so I did some analysis. I had raised $13 million for my past business. I had built a business kind of the hard way at this point. And anyway, so I basically figured out that this business that I built in 3 days would have taken me 18 months. And because it would have taken me 18 months, based on all the people I would have needed to build all this content creators and marketing and sales and all the developers and tens of thousands of lines of code, putting it all together and testing it, would have cost me $3.2 million. So $3.2 million actually only cost me about $400 to start, right? With AI doing all this stuff. And it took me 3 days instead of 18 months, right? And so, that's like a 99.9% reduction. And that's what startups are doing now to compete against these companies out there. People just don't understand what it means to change something by 1,000x. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And so people are sleeping on it. I don't understand why. I understand some of the reasons why. I understand a lot of people don't like it, and I understand those reasons too. But bottom line is, we think that AI is good at eliminating drudgery, this repetitive stuff, right? Just going back, and who wants to set up another unit test in their code? Like, no, now AI can just build 40 of them and run them automatically. Amazing. Handle repetitive tasks. Increase abundance. Yes, it absolutely should increase abundance. Okay. maybe UBI or UHI isn't the way to get there, but the reality is we should be able to make food cheaper. We should be able to build buildings faster and cheaper. We should be able to do these. We can make software cheaper. We can do all these things cheaper. As soon as robotics really hits, we should start to see some real, increase in supply. And the demand isn't going to change as fast as the supply will, and that should drive prices down. That's cool. That's super cool. Expand human capability, definitely, right? From, the people that are going to put something in their head like Neuralink or whatever to, just people saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to just put an agent on that. I'm going to let it take care of it. And I'm going to go do other things. I have just on my, if I were to open up or just swipe away from this, if I could right here, probably. Let's see where it is. This is that. I don't know where it might be actually underneath this one. Wait, here we go. Nope. Let's see if we can close it here. This is a perfect example. I'm in a bishopric. And I built something called bishopric board. And it takes tons of the busy work off of my plate. But what I was going to show is I'm now building tools for everything in my life. And it takes me a few hours to put it together. I've spent maybe 30 or 40 hours on this now because I've just spent time like, oh, hey, we should make this better. And I'll sit there in bishopric meeting and be like, okay, we're using this. Oh, hey, John, that button doesn't work. Oh, yeah, let's add this. It'll be really nice if we can do this. Okay, let me have it do that. So over a few months, I've worked this out. But yeah, you can just build stuff now almost on demand, and it should make your life. It should expand human capability and then ultimately unlock new frontiers, taking us further into space, deeper in the ocean and deeper into, the cell and understanding DNA and our biology and all these different things. I think it's awesome, right? I don't think AI is evil any more than the internet is evil. Certainly it can be used as a tool for evil. There will be plenty of fake news and, there's going to be some crazy scandals, I'm sure. Although I don't know, I think people kind of realize it's going to happen. It's people that believe anything now, but you have to imagine there are going to be scandals where video is so real, the evidence looks so real that people are going to be like, man, did that, general authority do that? Did that prophet say that? Did that guy do that? Did they really uncover this thing? It's going to be hard to know what to believe in, right? Now, obviously, we received some guidance from President Nelson on that. He said we'll have to use the spirit to do that, to deal with that. So yeah, just finishing up here, I'd love to get into the kind of conversation part of this where we just kind of open this up. But bottom line is we have to continue to find ways to contribute. We have to refuse to surrender creation, work, and responsibility to these systems just because it makes life easier. And there's going to be so many people, guys. There's going to be so many people. I went to Professor Curl at BYU, Econ 110, I think, said, we just like to shirk. Humans like to shirk. We just do. And so when all of a sudden we can, hey, I'm going to give you $2,500 a month for nothing. You just have to sit there. And I'll give you $2,500. You'll have all the food you need. You're going to make sure your housing's taken care of. I'll give you health insurance and you're set. How many people are going to just be like, yeah, I want that? Right? Hopefully no one in this room.
30%.
But
30%, I guess.
I don't know. I don't know the answer.
I mean,
but I bet it's at least that.
If someone gave me 2.5K, I'd take it. I mean, I'll still work, but the freeness is pretty.
Why do you think most of us in this room would not do that?
You what?
Why do you say most of us in this room would not be tempted to do that?
Because you're here learning about things. You're actively taking effort to understand this.
I could do more of that if I had to work less.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah, I mean,
it's
I
human
think-
nature to
What do you think of people who have made like tens of millions on their podcasts and they're still out there doing it every day and you don't have to?
I think it's awesome.
But no, what I mean, like that isn't like
Like, why
that's
are they
evidence
doing
to the
that?
contrary. So I just mean
Yeah,
like,
but how many people are there like that?
well,
What percent of the population?
right,
is
but I
like-
mean if
What percent of the population of podcasters?
if
They got it.
yeah, I mean I think if people got there, like I just don't know that there's reason to think, money aside, like say guaranteed healthcare or something, which right now is tied to employment. If it weren't that way, I think I know of a lot of people who they held off on starting their own businesses or taking risks, not because they were afraid they wouldn't be able to eat. No one's worried about that in this country. It was seriously like a healthcare coverage concern.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
I spent a couple of years on an Apache reservation, and
Mhm.
the council in that specific zone of that group within the Apache tribe was everyone there had stable income because of the casino that was nearby that they kind of all group owned, and there was a general consensus there that they all sort of regretted that whole scenario, but no one was willing to give it up. But at the same time, 99% of the population didn't have front doors. Uh, they were living terrible lives, but it wasn't because of a lack of opportunity or a lack of funding or a lack of anything like that. There was no reason to get up, so they stopped even like fixing their door when it broke.
Yeah.
Even though they had the cash to go do it.
When the
And I'm-
drive, when you don't need
Yeah, it was like
that drive isn't needed.
Yeah.
You just stop. People like to shirk. They will. People will do that. It's just human nature, right? There are some people who will fight against human nature, and they will stand up and they'll say, "Hey, you know what? That's not enough for me. They're going to get it from me." How many big, awesome scientific breakthroughs, or I'm sure there's some little things here and there, right? But how many come off of places like that, reservations like that?
I don't know.
And for a much, much, much bigger example, Europe.
Much more complicated.
I know it is.
Yes.
I know it's much more complicated, but
Big historical context there.
take Europe. Take all of Europe,
Mhm.
right? Much more socialized. Who here can name the big AI companies out of the US? Anybody?
The big AI companies outside of the US?
Out of the it's coming from the US. From the US. Yeah. So OpenAI, Anthropic, and the list is very, very big, right?
Europe only has one well-known one, it's Mistral.
Yeah, Mistral, and I would say 11 Labs has come out of Europe, right? What about China?
Yeah, DeepSeek.
There's crazy stuff coming
Yeah,
out.
there's
of
probably
China,
tons of them.
right now. China's maybe a little bit of an anti-example to what I'm saying here because they are very socialized, right? But Europe as a whole has always struggled from an entrepreneurship perspective and big startups perspective, just because a lot more stuff is taken care of. People just don't have to. The evidence points to when people's basic needs are taken care of, they will not push as hard. Straight up. 100% example of that across almost every society. Right. Now, there certainly are going to be the outliers. There's going to be outliers that show up and say, "Hey, you know what? I want to do a lot more." Right. And I'm going to go figure it out. Right. A lot of times those people come from other countries to the US to do those things. Right. But bottom line is, guys, you can't let AI come in and say, "Hey, I'm going to do all the work. You guys just go figure it out." Let's just ask the question. What is the purpose of life if we don't have to work? Now, no one in here has to go to work another day in their life. What's the purpose of
Well,
life?
didn't you assert that people are inherently creative? Like that is
Yes.
what we are as creators. Do you think that that's because of a need for money or because of a need to meet our need, like basic needs like food and shelter and all that? Or do you think that that's because it's baked in?
I think to a certain extent it's baked in.
So then why do you also assert that people are gonna shirk?
Yeah, because that's what they do. That's just human nature, right?
I
Just
feel like that's a contradiction.
Actually, that one makes sense to me just because. So I was a health coach for a few years, and one of the things, not at all in any way like nutritionally qualified or anything, but one of the things that you learn really early on is as soon as you start to dig into like the health struggles of this country specifically, is that we are genetically predisposed to choose sugar exactly as often as we should in an environment where it's present as often as we need it. The environment we're in now, it's available everywhere. But the environment our bodies are built for, which is just out there, it's available about as often as we need it, which means we should choose it 100% of the time that we have it. So our brains are designed to be creative. They're also designed to conserve energy everywhere that it can. So evolutionarily speaking, or genetically speaking, or whatever you want to say, I think the contradiction, it's contradictive and it's true. Like, yeah, we are creative and we are absolutely designed to shirk.
And creation requires a choice, right? Shirking doesn't really. This is your natural state. Creation requires you to say, "All right, I'm going to expend energy, and get up, and I'm going to go do something," right? And so because it just takes more effort, less people do it. I said that the creation is our superpower, not the thing that we do all the time. But those of us that like to create, right? I already know there's someone, there's this guy's a pianist. I heard some good tickling of the ivory over there. People like to create whatever it is. We all create in our own ways, but we have to still choose to create it. It takes a ton of effort. Has anybody here ever published an album, like a musical album, or written a book, published a book, anything like that, or a podcast or anything? It's so much work. It's so much work. I'm in the middle of writing a book right now. I have this publisher, and when I first talked to him, I was like, "Yeah, I'll get it done in 30 days." Like, I got this. Right? And I'm crazy busy, and it's going to take me probably more like 90 days, which is still super fast. But it's so much mental energy, right? I could sit down and write it in 30 days, but we got so many other things, and I have church callings, and I have a wife and 4 kids, and all these fun things that I need to and want to spend time with and do things with. And so you have to set things aside to make time for that creation. How many people, again, I don't want to, how many people create something like your song, maybe yeah, again, and I hope this isn't a parallel to that, but how many dads create a child and then take off, right? Or moms, right? It's more often the dad, just statistically, right? But bottom line is, yes, you might put in a little bit of effort to create something or try it or start it, but then sticking with it, right? That's why 99% of startups fail, is because people create it and it's so fun, it's so awesome while you're in the shower. You get this amazing idea to your brain, this lightning. And then, you get out of the shower and you got to dry off, you got to brush your teeth, and you got to eat breakfast, and there's your kids, and then you got to get to work, you got this meeting, and that idea is gone, right? The people that actually steward, right, shepherd that creation forward consistently over time are the ones that actually create a business or launch a book that's successful or launch music that's successful or whatever it is, right? It takes a huge amount of work. So yes, we are creators naturally. We have this capacity that's ridiculous. Everyone in here does. Everyone in the whole world does. I believe it is given to all of us. But it does take a huge amount of work to do it. And if work is no longer required, then a lot of people will choose not to use it. Yeah.
One of the things that I feel like I'm hearing is maybe a failure to distinguish between 2 qualities, of stasis, of inaction. What I'm hearing you say is there is a deep instinct there, fear of, if people don't act, then things won't be created and life won't be better. But one of the distinctions I think we need to make, qualitative distinctions, is between inertia and rest. Those aren't necessarily the same thing.
Right.
What I hear you saying is, if there's too much inertia, then human capacity and capabilities just wither on the vine. But my sense is that in our society often, there isn't really the capacity for rest, because we don't have, there isn't the social safety net. There is a general culture of work at all costs, at health, everything, mental health, human relationships. The concerns of the business world go right down to the depths of the nuclear family. And you have to criticize yourself and your family members over budgets and things like that. But here's a call. This is, I think, a big deal between inertia versus rest. Do we value rest? Do we trust rest and the instincts that people have for rest enough to believe that they'll come back from resting to resume that work of creation?
Yeah. I love that you brought up rest, because rest is so critical. It's so important. We can't work always. We have to rest. I've been up in meetings since 8 a.m. this morning, and coming to this meeting, quite frankly, was hard on my brain. I was like, okay, I can do this, but I committed to it, so I'm going to do it, right? But I can tell you, I looked at my calendar on the way here tomorrow morning to say, how long can I sleep in? Like, we have to rest. We will burn out. I've done it. I've been in the therapist, office saying, I can't do it anymore. Right. I've been there, right? Having, raised tons of money and held pressure, and man, it got to me, right? And I had probably 2 years, right? I couldn't do it. I was depressed because even though I had all this money and success around me and looks awesome from the outside, there's all this pressure to do it right. And making mistakes, and my mistake costs 10 people their jobs, and like it's hard, right? You have to rest. You have to, you absolutely have to. And I believe rest is also an internal thing, right? Enter into my rest, right? That's definitely something that the Lord promises us and invites us to do. And, behold, this is my work and my glory, right? His glory is his work to bring to pass the immortality of all of us, the eternal life of all of us, right? And so I think that's part of where our agency comes in, is we get to decide what is the right ratio of work and rest, and how can we do that? Man, I mean, what would it be like if we didn't have to sleep, if we didn't have the restraint, or the, I don't know, restrictions, and this mortal frail body that we have that needs rest? What happens when we do have an immortal body? Will we have to rest? Will we get to sleep? I hope so. I like sleeping. That sounds nice.
So is the direction you're going with this, is it AI adoption is low right now generally? It's going to empower a lot of people to be able to create, do, be, grow, whatever. We need to choose well during this process. And maybe what you're going to talk about is the transition that we have ahead of us. Is that where we're headed with these two
Yeah.
things that you brought up first, which is the what were they, meaning and I don't know, human agency?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different elements here. I also don't want to presume that I have all the answers. I hope you don't look at me as someone who has all the answers. I am here, hopefully, here to learn from you guys too. And I talk to big groups, and I jump on podcasts and talk to people smarter than me, and I say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about. This is what I'm trying to do. The way that I'm trying to help the world is to say, look, guys, don't sleep on this. This is a huge, huge tsunami coming, whether we like it or not. It's coming. It's not going to stop. Why? Because if we stop here in the US, China's not going to stop, and Iran's not going to stop, and Egypt's not going to stop, and Israel's not going to stop, and whoever is not going to stop, Russia's not going to stop. It's an arms race. It's absolutely nuclear arms race all over again, right? This time it's AI. So we have to keep pushing it forward. It's going to happen worldwide. I think that the end result is potentially an opportunity where we get to create and work on things that we don't care about. Like things that, I don't know. I think that probably most people that are flipping burgers at McDonald's don't think that's the purpose of their life. I think they want to do more than that. Not saying that flipping burgers at McDonald's is a bad thing. It's good, honest work. But in many places now, robots are doing that. And that's going to increase. The ratio of robots to humans is going to continue to increase at flipping burgers, right? And it's going to do the next thing. Roots Chris is always going to have white glove service by a human. So there's going to definitely be this society of non-AI and pure human, and people that are super automated. Certain industries are going to be incredibly automated and AI focused. So I think that the world we're getting to is going to be just awesome, where we do get to focus more on creating just amazing things. What if you can just look, guys? Let's jump to the end here. What if you could just speak and something existed? That's how God created the world, right? Does that sound familiar? He speaks and things happen. Now, it doesn't happen necessarily because some LLM guessed the next pattern and all this stuff. The way that AI works today. There are things that act and things that are to be acted upon, right? We are, as humans, intelligences that can act, but the elements and all these things, right? H2O is water because it follows this pattern that God commands it to follow. And that's really cool. That's really cool. And so we're learning. We're in the very, very beginning stages of knowing what it's like to be able to create by saying something. Right? I did it when I got here. I said, create this thing. It took me 30 seconds of talking and about 5 minutes of waiting, and this awesome presentation is here, right? And so, yeah, there's the act, another be acted upon. I didn't realize I was on that same slide, but that's what it's all about. I do believe, to get back to your question, I saw you had your hand up. I do believe there's going to be a rough transition from here to there. I don't know exactly how it's going to work. I don't pretend to have the answers. I do believe, though, as I said at the beginning, that those that are prepared, those that understand this and are going into it saying, okay, family, here's what we need to do to make sure we're prepared, right? We need to make sure that we have, we make as much money as we can right now while there's still great opportunities to do so, that we have good stores, that we have good community support, that we understand what's going on, that we're at the forefront, that we understand this technology. If we're the ones, I taught AI to this VP over at Thanksgiving Point 2 months ago, I want to say. And she sat in an 8-hour course fine. She went home and that night told her like 24-year-old son or something. It's like at the dinner table for about an hour, said, here's everything we learned. These are the platforms he uses, what he did, right? And I gave her a challenge, and she passed that challenge on to her son, said, go see if you can replace yourself. Like everything you do at work, see if you can replace it with AI. Use all these systems, tell it to do this and this and this, see if you can do it. He spent the weekend and he did it. It took him 1 weekend. Never used AI in his life, at least beyond, a classic ChatGPT. Hey, what does this do? Right. In 1 weekend, he replaced himself. He went in to his boss and said, actually, first went to his mom. I was like, Mom, I did it. It's like, I'm afraid to tell my boss. She's like, no, you have to go. And he went and told his boss. He got a $50,000 raise on the spot and was put in charge of that entire department. So what I'm trying to do, my little contribution, hopefully, is to say, how can we help more people be ready and find opportunity for themselves, find opportunity for their families? Entrepreneurship has never been easier. You can come up with an idea today and be making money with it by the end of the week, I promise you can make money with any, unless there's some crazy manufacturing process or you're trying to cure cancer. That's going to take a minute. It's a little bit different. But for most ideas, right? Even if it's, anyway, there's so many ways you can make money almost instantly because of AI. It's just an amazing enabler right now. So we're enjoying some cool stuff right here. We're worried about some of these bigger things that are going to have massive impact over the next few years, the next 5 to 10 years. And then there's a point where we get there and it's cool, but are we going to have some societies that have 20% unemployment? Yes. Totally. We'll have pockets in the US, we'll have places in other countries because of a lot of the things that maybe we outsource to Bangladesh or the Philippines or whatever. AI will just do it and we won't have to outsource that anymore. There will be lots of unemployment. It's not a pretty picture. It really isn't. So we got to figure out how do we do it. So I'm here sitting in a room, hopefully with smart people that are thinking about it. Maybe one of you guys is smarter than me could figure it out, right? I've heard some good ideas out there. And again, it's not even my responsibility, right? But I'm thinking about it and I want to help as many people as possible. So you had some thoughts.
Yeah, I actually have a question about the safety. So if I understood correctly,
Yeah.
It sounds like you aren't quite so concerned about that, like catastrophic risk. So I just was curious.
Like Terminator type.
I wouldn't characterize it that way,
Okay.
but so like the position that something more powerful will just see us as parts that it can put towards better use, and it will be sort of indifferent and
Like Ultron.
like into, if you want to break ground on a house, maybe you're sort of sad you have to take down a tree with birds in the nest, but it's not going to stop you. Yeah, and so I guess I assume you're familiar with the examples of the AI being tested to see what it's capable of and knowing it's being tested and lying about what it can do during the test. So if that doesn't concern you, I'm just curious as to why that doesn't concern you.
It certainly concerns me.
Or it doesn't make you worried it's going to lead us.
Look, guys, one of my biggest concerns is that somebody with access to AI, because look, guys, the free models right now, the open source models, are roughly 6 months behind the frontier models. That's it. There's so little gap between the absolute smartest, best AI in the world and something that's totally free that has no guardrail. Okay? I'm worried about bad people, right? In the words of what is his name in Batman, right? Some people just want to watch the world burn. Okay? Those people exist. There's just genuinely bad people out there. So what if they take it and they cripple our banking system? They just wipe out every single record of the stock market. I mean, there's crazy things like that absolutely could happen, right? But people are thinking about that. People are thinking about, what happens in those catastrophic scenarios, right? Are there backups? Are there backups of backups? Are there air gapped backups? Are there ways that, printed records, whatever, right? Personally, I wouldn't mind if somebody, lost my mortgage record. Well, it's my house. I'm here. But yeah, I mean, there are definitely some scenarios where that could certainly happen. Now, who's to say, guys, that this is not the thing that ushers in the second coming, that causes unbelievable chaos, right? Go do some research on what happens when a society hits 20% unemployment, right? The men in particular get very restless and start causing problems. Right? It's happened, right? It's a pattern. It's a pattern that's happened. Once you hit 20% unemployment, societies get into some rough places. So yeah, there's definitely catastrophic scenarios that lead to, our need for food storage. Yeah, good.
Yeah. I kind of want to pull on a thread that we were talking about earlier in regards to like abundance and the possibility of it like sort of just causing laziness among people.
Yeah.
One of the like common sort of trajectories of technology are that like we have this problem and we have this technology that like comes to solve that problem, but the solution to our problem has other problems. And so like an example of this was like, humans, began farming, and that gave us some stability in terms of location. But then like the alteration of our diets like screwed up our like dental health, and like all sorts of things. And then it's not until like, recently that we're trying to grapple with and like do better than what we have in the past. Like other examples are like myopia and not being able to see far. We use this technology, but like it comes with some drawbacks. So I'm thinking that like with abundance, I think it is the case that like if we have this hyper abundance that like people would be more lazy. But I think also it's the case that like I think there are people that want to not to be lazy. Like yeah, I want to be able to get up in the morning and run a 5K or something. And I think that perhaps someday, like instead of wanting to want something, we can like sort of select our wants and like have motivation or desire for that thing. You know, that's definitely far in the future. But I don't know. Like I think even if it is the case that abundance causes these, like second order effects, I think that like as technology improves, like we could sort of have our cake and eat it too. That like the problems and that emerge from technology can be solved by future technology and so on. Yeah. Oh, I think Rio had.
Yeah. I've had so long to keep thinking about asking a question that doesn't work. I just have 5 ideas.
That sounds like
So-
Raymond.
Yeah. So I'm happy we're on this page because I would tell you to turn back this page if we weren't on it. There's lovely gospel resonances with a lot of these ideas that are pleasant. Whatever you got, it's really lovely. At the moment, a majority, I'm not quite sure how large a majority of people don't, this is irrelevant to, they don't get to choose whether their work is already meaningful.
Yep.
So that's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning they don't get to select which what their work is.
They get to do drudgery.
Yeah.
There are not choices.
Yeah.
Agency gone.
So they could choose to decide that that's meaningful, but they're not choosing what it is that they're doing.
Illusion is allowed.
Yes.
You could say, oh, I'm so happy that those Americans get to have, I'm sorry, everyone, chocolate because my child gets to go out and shorten their lifespan picking cacao. Like, child does not get to choose to do that. That's what they do to eat. That's it. Game over. No agency. Done. Slaves. Legally, technically not slaves. Sorry, Nestle, you kill babies. So,
No, lots of the
people-
world is like.
yeah, and it's I think the majority, and I'm not going to push any farther than I think the majority of people are mostly doing survival work or survival for other people work.
Yep.
So scripturally, the folks that we tell of that have the most direct interactions with Jesus take that personally, that other people are not in a situation to do that. And we get various accounts of how groups work to increase the agency of other communities, freeing them from bondage, freeing them from hierarchy, etc. So that's our first thought. And I think that's probably the most important question. The second thing on this is my commitment to do these things probably won't matter in the first industrial revolution and second, depending on how you're slicing it. It did not matter that people had commitments to do these things. They don't get to choose whether they get to continue contributing. The vast majority of people have no real choice in much beyond a small plateful of choices. And like, people are soldiers, so their kids can be farmers, so their kids can be merchants, so their great grandchildren can finally be an artist. Somebody gets to be creative with their life. I think merchants are doing some cool creativity too. I think farmers are much more creative than we give them credit for.
No, I agree. I mentioned garbage is something that we create. Yeah.
So those are my two things. Most people are already in a position where this is not a commitment they get to make. Most of us are probably not in a position that we're totally secure that we get to choose to enact these commitments. And Jesus seems to have caused people to have the inclination to go make other people have these options. So my inclination would be, and this is not helping my reputation as I swear I'm not a communist, but I swear I'm not a communist.
The law of consecration is where we're headed towards.
Yeah, like probably.
Probably. No. But it only works if there's not a king. Unless there's a king that's
it's really important details.
Yes.
So like does that what should our set of commitments be about us? Should we be one more step meta than this? And like, our commitment is to guarantee to the most people possible the opportunity to join with us in these commitments.
Yes.
Okay. So that's
Absolutely, we have to. And I personally don't believe that you can be born into a situation you can't get out of. Right? I believe it's very difficult and maybe impossible. It might actually be impossible. Maybe some people are, that's their plan. That's their trial in life. They're stuck there. They want to leave, and they just their whole life. That's what they do, right? How many people were born and died in slavery, and that's just all they could do, and no choice that they could individually make could have changed that potentially. I really believe and agree with what you're saying, but I also believe, again, this is maybe a terrible example, but it just came to me while you were saying it. Michael Jackson came from that kind of a place, right? His dad was a steel worker working in the mines. And he says in the very beginning of the movie, the dad comes home, he's tired, he's carrying things. He's like, guys, if we don't change something, this is what you're gonna be doing. And how many do you want to do this? And they're all like, no, we don't want to. And they had this gift or whatever. And they said, we're going to start go touring. We're going to try. We're going to book some local shows and some local restaurants and things. And they did it. They got out of it right now.
Yes, music is a classic way to escape poverty. It's a very high success rate.
That Mike said it's a terrible example.
I thought it would be.
What's the point of it? It's just I don't believe in being actually stuck, right? I mean, except in circumstances where it just happens. I think that anybody can do it, even that poor kid in Africa. There are examples. Again, they are few and far between because it takes this amazing amount of inertia to get out of it. You have to get up and not rest. And you have to just push and get pushed back and push and get pushed back until finally.
So I think we're in a transition state, though, huge transition state right now, because we have this new question on the horizon, right? Which is with post-scarce labor and post-scarce intelligence on the earth, right? Like that's happening. We're in that transition, right? Will there be any slavery in 5 years? It's a question that actually is on the table. Will there be any, one that can't pull themselves out in 5 years or 10 years?
Well, I think there'll
So
be that. Just
a little
because
curious.
I think there's always going to be groups that want to use whatever technology that exists to maintain their own personal power.
Amen.
And
you believe it'll still be possible? That's what you're saying.
Just because they're there now, they'll still have those people. And this is kind of a morbid topic, but if you have slavery, if you have a group of people you have physical control over, you might decide to make those people make more slaves for you.
Totally.
So that you can keep those, like that. In 5 years, there will definitely be slaves. But this issue, the previous issue discussion, I kind of come from, I think these are really important things to keep in mind the whole time, like the idea of who has what choice, can people get out of any situation? But I also have a strong opinion of sort of the opposite interpretation of it. I've heard the word agency used a lot, being interpreted as how many plausible or practical choices do you have? But I think that another very productive way to interpret agency is what do you do with the implausible choices that you have? When do you say, I don't care that this is implausible?
Yeah.
I am going to start doing something other than what I am offered. And if you look at the percentage of really amazing things as a species that individuals have achieved, it is very often from people who didn't have that choice. And they made the choice anyway. Right. I had a conversation a few years ago with somebody that was like, they were like, well, it's not practical to just not choose to buy an iPhone or an Android. So I don't feel like I have the choice to protest against child slavery. I'm trapped in it. And this is kind of hypocritical for me to say because I have an iPhone. But what I told them was, no, you absolutely have a choice. You're just choosing not to.
Yeah.
You don't feel bad about that. I'm not judging you for that. I am currently choosing not to. But we do have the choice, and life doesn't end if you choose not to buy that phone. Like, we have the choice to end the economy as we know it now and live a different life. And if we all have to live outside for a few years to do that, that doesn't actually end life. It just ends our current state of comfort.
Yep.
And we can develop a new one. So I'm a firm believer that agency is present no matter what choices we think we don't have, because we are always at liberty to do something with what we do have. And that, or at least that's I should say, less confrontationally, that's an interpretation I think is extremely valuable. And I also believe that, I don't know. So I'm deep in the deep tech of AI. I'm working on new AI model architectures, and one of the things that I've learned from AI is that we only call to zoom out to the larger topic of your presentation. We only call work work because it is uncomfortable, and we call play play because we like it. But if you look at adults who play and work, they're both work. You have adults who will exert themselves to an incredible degree for a meme. You know what I mean? Yeah, I've seen a professional welder go out of his way to permanently deface a building, just for pure entertainment in a way that could not have taken less than 1,000 hours. I couldn't believe what that guy did.
Or run a marathon.
Or run a marathon, yeah. Like,
That's a huge amount.
the only difference between play and work is how fulfilling do we find it. And a lot of people that you see in the media, some of those people, there's a very subtle difference for them because they enjoy what they do so much. And I'm not saying that anyone who can't find a way out of the slums deserves to be in the slums. And I think that it's an absolute pattern that there's a systemic issue. But I do think that as a species, we need to be careful with what powers we give ourselves. That while we're giving ourselves those powers, we're not saying, no, don't use this to help anybody. We're just saying, hey, while we use this to help ourselves, let's make sure we're not doing it to stay in bed. Let's do it to give ourselves more power, not less life.
Yeah. I want to go back for a second on something you said here that everyone was like, yeah, right? Which I agree with the yeah. The Sam Altmans of the world and the people that, have just ultimate power right now. And
Yeah, they're turning the world, yeah.
they are. They absolutely are.
Sam Altman ruined RAM prices for a while just because of the thing he said.
I know he did. And everyone's like, we have to buy it all. Anyway,
pulled out of all those deals.
So I know he did. I know he totally just destroyed it. Anyway, did you guys hear that Sam Altman said that, on the there's this topic of the data center that obviously that's supposed to go home. People were asking him about his opinions on that. He's like, yeah, we need more AI. Like, doesn't that take a lot of energy? And you know what his response was? Did anybody hear this? It was just a couple days ago. He said, do you know how much energy it takes to raise a human to be 20 years old? Just think about that for a second. He is totally devaluing human life. He doesn't care. He said that on a big, World Economic Forum stage. in front of everybody. It doesn't care. It's about profit. It's about staying in control, keeping that profit train rolling, right? And so we got to know, we got to be aware of these things and aware of what types of models we support. And reality is there's a billion people using OpenAI. I mean, that's virtually everyone connected to the internet. I mean, I know it's not quite, but it's a huge percentage. It's a huge percentage of people, right? WhatsApp. Anybody know how many between WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, all the things that Facebook for Meta controls, how many users there are? Does anybody know that number? What would you guess?
More than
Last year, I think it's probably like 2 billion, maybe, or
3.5.
3.5.
3.5 billion people.
It's a lot of people.
That's crazy. That is crazy. It's absolutely insane. The amount of power and influence that these people have over the way that, you know.
So you're tapping into China numbers there with that 3.5 billion.
I'm just tapping into the raw numbers. That's what they are.
I don't think
They're
they
reported.
did a breakdown.
That's what they're reporting from Meta.
Okay.
That's what Meta
probably
reported.
WhatsApp. Although they do have less leverage in some sense over what you're doing in WhatsApp.
Right, yeah.
And
Just kind of
encrypted and,
you know.
Yeah.
you know,
Maybe.
they're not.
So I guess I would love to go back to your breakdown with the different groups that you talked about. We have Europe.
Yeah.
And we had a native Indian reservation, and then the choice and agency, and how AI is maybe changing those percentages or numbers in the different spaces, including China. I would be interested in India, because that's where we have these bigger populations. Who's talking about the what
That are kind of stuck.
What populations are stuck in a space of picking cacao or whatever, right? And I know it's not that in China, like, right, there's just like a whole bunch of different things that people are doing.
Scenarios.
Groups of people that are kind of being wiped out because of population implosion questions and stuff that the government's making because they just have an economic commercial reason to move that group of people out of life, dead, just kill them all, because it doesn't work with what we're doing with housing over here. And so I'm kind of curious with regard to AI and your perspective of agency as you're kind of bringing that up. What's it doing? Is it moving the needle at all?
Before you answer, we'll just formally close real quick. So if people need to go, they can go. We're 10 after the hour now. So thanks everyone for Jon and his presentation.